Hi everyone. So today I thought I would talk to you a little bit about time because some people are finding their new reality where they are at home an absolute joy, and some people are finding it a real challenge. And one of the reasons for that is because people are relating to time in a different way to how they would normally relate to time. And I wanted to talk to you about the fact that there are different ways of relating to time, and I'm a timeline practitioner, so I spend quite a bit of time learning about how people relate to time and sometimes changing how people relate to time because it's not always useful. And actually being aware that there are different ways to relate to time can actually be really helpful because you realise that, or firstly, that you can change it, and secondly, that it's just a perception, it's not an actual reality, which is a bit of an eye-opener. It can be a bit of a brain twister, but hopefully I'm going to give you some options that will help you to work more friendly, in a more friendly way with the time as it is at the moment. So in Western cultures, we tend to be one of two different types of relators to time. A lot of people are through time people, which means that they see themselves as outside of time, if you like, and they see that time is happening and they are moving along time. So they like to be on a schedule. They like to know what's happening next, and they like to be able to see what's happening next. And you can identify people who are through timers because they like to say things like, we need to keep an eye on the time, because they are keeping an eye literally on the time. And if you were to ask somebody who hadn't looked at their watch in hours what time it was, a through timer would probably be able to tell you almost to the minute what time it is. And lots of our culture is set up for through timers because it's been set up by through timers, and I'll come on to that in a minute, what that actually means for us. A lot of people are also in time people, so they see time as something they are moving through rather than something that is happening and they're moving past. So in time people often have their past behind them and their future in front of them, and they're the kind of people that might say things like, I lost all track of time. So someone who is through time is never going to lose track of time. Someone who's in time is often caught up in the moment, or they didn't realise how long they'd been doing something for, and they might get quite lost in an activity. They're actually happier off the clock, so they quite like to spend as much time as it takes doing a project or a task. And they can sometimes feel very pressured by time. So if, for example, my oldest child, my daughter, is very in time. So she is very creative. She likes to spend a lot of time doing an art project. She'll spend hours painting or drawing one task. You can ask her how long she's been doing it and she'll have no idea how long she's been doing it for. And if you were to give her a task where there's a timer on it, so if she's doing like an online task and there's a timer in the corner, forget it. Her mind is going to go blank and she's not going to be able to achieve anything. And what people are noticing at the moment is that they have a little bit more freedom and they might be struggling with how to use their time. So, as I said before, much of adult life is structured in a through time kind of way. Often, many of us start work at 9 and then we finish at 5 and our day is structured for us. I work in teaching when I'm not coaching, and very much the day is structured. 9 o'clock till 10:30 is lesson 1, then there's a 20-minute break, then there's another hour and a half lesson and a 45-minute break. And so our time is very much through time. And for some of us, that's really difficult because we like to work for as long as the task takes. So I thought I would offer some pointers and some tips for how we can help people manage when their time is less structured, to help them to be as productive as they want to be or feel like they can be. So what's going to help people who are through time? So if you find that you are struggling with a lack of routine, then the obvious thing is to create a routine for yourself. So getting up at the same time, having a morning ritual or a morning routine is often really nice for through timers. And setting up time scales for which to do the work or the activities that you want to do in a day. Now, the thing for through timers, and lots of adults who've been conditioned to be through timers because of our life experience and the fact that our workplaces teach us to be through timers, is that if some of you are trying to include other people in your routines, especially if they're kids, then they are more likely to be through timers, and they're not going to like you telling them they've got to do PE at 9 o'clock and their history at 10 o'clock and, you know, have a break at 10:45 to 11. They might find that more difficult because it's likely that they might be in timers. So if people like your routine and they're happy with it, then that's really good for you. But you also need to be mindful of the fact that it's not the way that everybody works. And also, if you are trying to do activities to calm yourself, so if you're trying to do your breathing activity or your mindfulness meditation or something like that, if you are a through timer, it might be more difficult for you. And the reason is that you are very much aware of the time. And if you are trying to do something like meditation, what you're actually trying to do is almost drop out of time completely. So for those of you that have a mindfulness practice or a meditation practice, you'll know that when you're in your meditation, when you're in that place, time actually changes anyway. So you might have been meditating for an hour, if you've ever managed it for that long, and feel like it's been moments. Or conversely, you might think, I've been doing this for ages, and then look at the timer and it's been like 45 seconds. So our perception of time actually shifts. And for those of you that really like to be keeping an eye on time or very aware of time in that sort of through time way, then that might be one of the reasons why you are finding some resistance to mindfulness practices or meditation practices that take longer. And for those of you that do things like yoga, then yoga is a really in-time kind of activity. You're just moving with your own breath for the length of a breath, and you are very much in the moment when you're doing it. The time doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long the practice takes when you're doing it. You're kind of relying on the teacher or the online class or what have you to keep an eye on the time so that you don't have to. So if you are an in-timer and you have been working in a through time kind of way in your workplace, you might be struggling to be as productive as you'd like to. And so I thought I'd show you some tips that help also in-timers with their work. So here is, this is my to-do list. Here you go. And you'll actually see that it's not a list. It's a to-do kind of pick and choosy sheet. And what I do is a lot of the activities have got a time frame allocated to them. So if you can see that, I'm going to do 1 hour on my online course. And I can do that hour whenever I want. I can do it any time between now and about 11 o'clock tonight if I choose to, because I've got all the time in the world this week. And so some of these activities I don't have to choose. I don't have to put them on a routine timeline. I can do them whenever I want to, and I can pick and choose. But what's really helpful is allocating myself an amount of time to do that for, because I could just start that online course and feel like I hadn't been productive if I hadn't completed it. Giving yourselves, for me, I've given it a time limit. It might also be useful if you give yourself a task limit. So it might be that I was going to complete one module of my online course and I could take my time to do that. So giving yourself a bit more flexibility and a bit more freedom. The pink thing, by the way, that's the one thing I must do. That's how I organise my to-do frame, is there's one thing I must do and all these other things are on there. The other thing is that sometimes we use expressions like, I don't feel like it. I don't know. I don't really feel like getting the work done at the moment. I don't feel like I'm in the mindset for doing that particular activity or that particular piece of work. So the other thing that I do is change how I'm feeling about something. So for example, one of the things that's on my to-do activity list, my to-do list, if you like, is to create some coaching resources that bring people together so that are connected. And it's hard to do that when I'm not feeling connected. So because I'm a really visual person, I've got some resources that help me feel connected. So here is a photo of some of my lovely yoga friends who I did my yoga teacher training with. And if I need to feel connected, using resources like this to look at them and feel how I felt when I was with all those wonderful people helps me to get into the state that I need to be in order to generate those resources. I can't do that. I couldn't create resources that help people feel connected if I don't feel connected. Similarly, here's another one I have. This is one of me and my crazy kids. And this is the sort of thing that I would have to look at when I want to lift my feelings. I want to lift myself and feel a bit happier, maybe feel a bit more joyful about what it is that I'm trying to do. So if I am struggling and I feel a bit kind of I'm on my own, there's nothing to do, I'm really struggling to get anything done. Just looking at this, lift my vibration a little bit, lift my energy a little bit, and then get more done, be a bit more productive. So those are some handy things to hopefully to help you. And you can actually shift from one to the other if you have a little bit of practice at doing it, and you are maybe you get some help with it. I once was feeling like I was through time, and when I'm through time, when I'm acting in a through time kind of way, I'm in a hurry to get to the next thing all of the time. And I was feeling like I was in a hurry to get through my life. I was in a hurry. I would eat fast. I would sleep, with my mind whirring all the time. I would walk quickly everywhere. I would try and do everything as quickly as I could. I wanted everything finished. And for me, it wasn't a very natural way of being. So I changed my mind, literally, to try and be a bit more in time. But I did it on my own without a coach guiding me. And I ended up putting my past behind me, which also meant I lost loads of things that I'd learnt. And so I forgot completely how to plan and how to be on time for things. And I got my mum to the airport late, which was a real turning point for me because I'd never got anybody anywhere late or been late for anything in my whole entire life. And I realised I'd gone too far. So I worked with a fabulous coach called Marina who helped me organise my timeline in such a way that it's now optimal for me. So I can completely relax and be in time when I want to be. And if I have to get things done by a certain time, I can switch and become a bit more through time. And that's actually really empowering. So if you are struggling with your relationship with time at the minute, just decide that you're going to experiment with changing it. So just change your mind. Just decide, I'm going to actually, for the next 3 hours, I'm going to be really in time. I'm going to get these jobs done. And then at the end time, in 3 hours time, I'm just going to stop. And if you are through time and you fancy trying something that's in time, try and do something that's perhaps less time pressured. So when I go for my walk, I'm very much in time. When I do my crochet project or my colouring in just for the hell of it, or from jigsaw puzzle or something like that, then I'm very much in time. I just do it for however long I want to do it for. And that feels quite nice. It's quite liberating. So if you're struggling with filling your time, or you're feeling like you're not being as productive as you'd like to be, have a think about, how am I organising my time? Do I need to be more organised, or do I need to be less organised or organised differently? If I was to try and make myself a list and put lots of timings in it, I would find those timings quite pressured, because if I missed one, I'd feel like the rest of the day was going to be all wrong and it was all going to be out of kilter and I was going to be late for everything all day. So I take the pressure completely off me. This might look like an awful lot of things to do. Some of them on there are repeated ones that will go on to next day's page as well. Some of them don't take that long. They're just on there so I don't forget to do them. One of them is like answer an email. Oops. One of them there is answer an email. That will take me seconds. And then what I do, once I've done the thing, I rip them off. Those are some I've done earlier, and I throw them away. Or I like to have a little pile of them so that I can see how much I've achieved. And then at the end of the day, some of them I'll throw away, some of them I'll use again. So the main point I wanted you to take from this really is that you can use this time to look at how you relate to time and see if you would like to change anything, if you would like to relate to it a little bit differently, and then experiment with it and experiment with how you are most productive without that kind of pressure of somebody else enforcing that time frame on you. A lot of us aren't going to an actual place of work, so my work day doesn't necessarily end. And again, for some people, they can find that difficult because the work day can sort of feel like it's never ending. So for you guys, it might be easier to put something in a box. For me, I'm okay with my workday never ending, because as long as I know that I'm not doing work tasks, I've finished. So again, not going into a work environment, not being somewhere outside of our home to do our work can be quite challenging for some of us, or not feeling like we're getting enough done. The other thing I would say to you is, on all your to-do lists and all of your sort of activity planning that you've got, it's likely that you haven't put on your list all of the things that you do on a given day that take up time. You probably haven't put get everyone's breakfast. You haven't probably put on some laundry, put the laundry on the line, do the washing up, get everybody lunch, cook tea. change the bedding, all those other things that you were doing in all those times in between. And if you did, and you wrote all those things down and you ticked them off when you did them, you'd feel like you were as productive as you actually are. So just because some of those things don't even make it onto a list because you just do them as a matter of course, doesn't mean that they are not productive. Okay, so for some of you that are in a different model of working than how you normally are, be a bit kind with yourself about what you actually are achieving, because I don't think that many of you will be spending too much time just sitting around doing absolutely nothing. You're kind of busy. If you're anything like me, you're sort of busy, that you're doing things. I look like I haven't ticked many things off my actual list this morning, but I've done loads of stuff. I haven't been sitting idle. So just give yourself a bit of a break and know that we're getting used to these new routines, this new way of being. So be kind to yourself and give yourself time to come to terms with what your new reality is and how you want to structure your time, because now you have the choice. Now you very much can give yourself a little bit more time to work out what works for you and how you relate to time. So something to think about, something to experiment with, and let me know how you get on with your experiments now that you've got a little bit more time to play. Okay, take care guys, and I'll see you soon for a little bit more information and more tips for you. Take care, bye bye.